All right, it says I'm live. Let's see. Let's just check the stream here. Come on. Where are you? Rednecks here. Randy, Melody, Jeffrey. All right, it says I'm live. Yeah, I'm live. Okay, you should be able to hear me. You know, a lot of people might think politician destroys a satanic altar at Iowa Capitol. That doesn't sound like something that should go on a cop channel. But what do we always talk about here? Do you have rights or do you not have rights? Do you have freedoms or do you not have freedoms? Are you against censorship or are you not against censorship? Are you for fair and equal treatment or are you not for fair and equal treatment? I think this fits perfectly with this channel because you have to answer those questions. And if you're a person of integrity, then you're also a person of consistency. If you say that you have the right to freedom of speech, then that must mean that other people have the right to freedom of speech, or you're something other than a human being. You're a god, or you're some extraterrestrial, somebody who's above humanity. If you've got rights, other people have rights. If they have rights, you have rights. And those rights are unalienable. You can't put a lien on them. Why? Because they weren't given to you by government. They can't be taken away from you by government. They weren't given to you by man. We all have them. It's inherent and it's self-evident. So, do you have the right to practice a religion if you want to? Do you have the right to cuss out a cop if you want to? Do you have the right to go into a court and say F you or F the draft if you want to? Well, according to the Supreme Court, we can. Yeah, but what if they said you can't? That doesn't make it true. Supreme Court said that cops have the right because of officer safety to tell you to get out of the car. Well, is that consistent with the Fourth Amendment? See, that's why to be a Supreme Court justice, you can't have integrity because you're going to violate your oath. If it says that you have the right, not the privilege, but the right to be secure in your persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures and no warrant shall issue, ... If it says that, then anything that's a violation of that, I don't care where it comes from. I don't care if it comes from Washington's District of Criminals, the black robe tyrants of the Supreme Court, all the law enforcement officers got together and voted on this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make it right to erase your rights. And that's what Pennsylvania v. Mims does. That's what Terry v. Ohio does. That's what so many court cases do. So when I see something like this, I kind of get... You know, it kind of causes me to sit back. I'm not a religious person. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Jew. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not a Satanist. I'm like, you know what? If you guys want to exercise your faith in that, fine. But if this person exercises his faith over here, Steve Gate just gifted 5 Here's the Deal memberships to Allie got one, Kyle got one, Narcolepsy Kid got one. Our guy 936 got one. Son of Liberty got one. Wow. Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate that. The bottom line is, if you have the right to exercise your religion, whatever it is, I don't care. As long as you're not reaching out your hand to harm or threaten to harm or damage somebody's property and not pay for it, do whatever you want to. As long as you understand that nobody has a higher claim over your life and property than you, no one has a higher claim over my life and property than me, as long as you don't initiate unjust force and violence on peaceful people who haven't done anything wrong, you can believe in little green men from Neptune if you want to. Or would that be blue men? Blue men from Neptune, green men from Mars. Of course, if you're from Mars, you're probably not green, you're probably red. Anyway, you can believe whatever you want to believe. Why? Because you have the freedom to. You have the freedom to believe that the moon is made of cottage cheese or Swiss cheese or whatever. Who am I to tell you you can't do that? Because I might believe something that you think is half-cocked and lunatic and lame brain. So let me just refresh our memories on the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging of the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government, those who think they have the right to rule you, for a redress of grievances. Now, I don't agree with everything in the Constitution. I don't agree with everything in the Bill of Rights. I think there's things that need to be modified for more freedom because I think we should always err on the side of freedom. But in the First Amendment, when you enter the concept of government, you've already entered the concept of religion. The concept of government, as we've stated many times on this channel, is the concept that men or group of men and women, group of people have the right to rule you. And there's more. And you have the obligation to obey those rulers or you should be punished. That is the concept of government. Now, who in here believes that other men or women on this earth have a higher claim over your life and property than you? If you believe that, fine, but all that is a belief. Because if they have the right to rule, why don't you have the right to rule? If you don't have the right to rule and they have the right to rule, where did they get that right? Are they special? Are they different? Do they breathe different air? Do they eat different food? Have they come down from upon high on Olympus or something? So government is this construct of belief that says that certain men are more special than other men and they have the right to do things that if you did it, you'd be considered a criminal. That's what I have a problem with in the First Amendment. They interjected the word government. It's a fiction. You might as well petition Santa Claus for redress of grievances. Petition the Easter Bunny for redress of grievances. It's completely foolish. Just as there's no such thing as Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny or the Tooth Fairy, there is no such thing as a man who has the right to rule you and you must obey them or you should be rightly punished. That's not right. You know it's not right. There's no such thing as government. Government is a religion. Now, from the perspective of like the Christian religion, there's no such thing as a false God. That's why they call it a false God, because it's false. From the perspective of Muslims, they don't believe that Jesus is who Christians say they are. So we got this infighting. We got these people going, no, I got my holy book. I got the Quran. The Jews say they got the Torah. The Christians say they have the New Testament and the Bible. There's this Sanskrit for the Bhagavad Gita for Krishnas, Hare Krishnas and all that kind of stuff. So you get all these religions and all these adherents to these religions. I believe this, my holy book says this, and my God says this, and my God says you're false God, your God is false, and their God says your God is false. So who's right? And then what are you going to use to prove that you're right? What evidence are you going to bring to the table? Of course, you're going to bring your holy book, which is completely condemned by the other people who have a different holy book. And now we got a war going on, and it's all based on a construct of belief or a faith. And then somebody else goes, well, I got a constitution. It's like, well, a lot of good that did us. Now we have tyranny. We're $33 trillion in debt. And if you count unfunded liabilities, it's like closer to the $200 trillion. So a lot of good that did, gold and silver. Wow. The bankers weren't constrained there, were they? So the bottom line is, do you have freedom of religion or not? Or is it, I have the freedom to practice my religion, but as soon as somebody else practices their religion, and they set up an altar to their gods, we're going to tear it down. And that's what we got right here. So in Mississippi, this politician called, let me get this straight here. Let me get this in here. I'm going to try to go through this as quickly as possible. Mississippi, I don't want to bore anybody. But I want this all to be instructive because, hey, man, if you're going to be a person of integrity, part of integrity is to be consistent. And if you're consistently wrong, to be correctable. The prodigal heel says this will end in theocracy. That's why the shills are losing it. Now, I'm willing to point out, because I don't have a dog in this fight. Well, I do. Freedom is my dog in this fight. I'm willing to point out that I get it. 2 or 3 years ago, remember the leftists were destroying statues and nobody was prosecuting them. And there was this mass vandalism. They were taking down all these statues because of what they said, that the person the statue symbolizes what that person believed was like racist or bigoted or homophobic or whatever. So they tore down these statues and there was no prosecution. So now the Christians are going, well, you got to tear down your statues. Well, we're going to tear down some statues of our own and we're not going to get prosecuted. And if we do, then we're going to pay the legal fees and everything's going to be all right. Well, that's hypocrisy on both sides. There shouldn't be any vandalism. It's ridiculous. All right, so here we go. Mississippi politician Michael Cassidy is charged with criminal mischief after beheading satanic altar statue inside the state capitol. Now, there's so many things in this story that is so rich if you look at it from just a third-party perspective, I'm not a part of this world, but I've got an opportunity to peer into this world and see what's going on. And I'll tell you what, there's some real rich irony going on here. First of all, here's the Michael Cassidy guy. He's the one who tore down this statue right here. This is the Baphomet statue for the Satanic Church, which I heard doesn't even believe in Satanism. It's all kind of a spoof. But then there's different branches of Satanism. Here's the beheaded head laying on the floor. And what I thought was absolutely rich with irony and hypocrisy is this picture right here from the Inside Edition. The Christians were, and I think it's even they had a prayer circle. Christians had a prayer circle around this Christmas tree right here. And if you know anything about Christianity, here they were doing a prayer circle right here around this Christmas tree. This Christmas tree just so happens to be in the same room of the capital of Iowa as this satanic display right here. Let me get back to the satanic display. So here's this satanic display, at least was in the same room as this Christmas tree. Now, if you know anything about Christianity, God has a serious intolerance for any other religion. And it's even written in the Ten Commandments, don't set up an altar, no graven images and all that, which, Catholics do it. It's like, what's going on here? Why are all these statues? I grew up Catholic. There's all these statues. You genuflect, you bow down to the statues. You put palm branches around the statues. Absolutely forbidden by God in the Old and in the New Testament. And the Christmas tree Christmas has nothing to do with the Christ of the Bible. I can say this as a former Christian and no longer a Christian, no longer involved in any kind of religion. Christmas, the term Christmas comes from Roman Catholicism from the 300s under Constantine, Christ's Mass. If you know anything about the Mass in the Roman Catholic Church, it is the sacrifice of Jesus' body and blood on the cross in every single Mass when Christ himself said in the Gospel of John, it is finished. So actually from the Old Testament and New Testament perspective, the Christmas tree, Santa Claus, the magic reindeer, the elves, and all that kind of stuff is condemned by the Old and New Testament. I'm just telling you what it says. So the very fact that they have a Christmas tree is an idol. Look up Jeremiah chapter 10 for that one. The Christmas tree in itself is an idol and basically an altar set up in the Capitol building of Iowa, which is also an altar to the religion of government in the same room as the altar of Baphomet, and everybody's losing their minds. All the Christians are losing their minds as they're partaking in gross idolatry. It's amazing, man. Christmas itself, I'm talking about strictly from the Bible perspective, whatever you might believe. Oh, that's just your interpretation. No, it's really not my interpretation. It's literally what's written in the Bible. They even talk about cutting down a tree and adorning it. And it's something that God condemns in Jeremiah chapter 10. It's crazy stuff. So you got people who are saying this idolatry is okay, but this idolatry right here, nope, we're going to condemn it. And these same people who say we're going to condemn this idolatry are the same people who say that they champion the cause of the First Amendment. And hey, we're not going to establish a religion, and we're not going to prohibit the free exercise of, well, what do you call chopping down the head of Baphomet? That's prohibiting the exercise of a religion called Satanism. And it's hypocrisy. And so you have places like Turning Point USA, which is decidedly Christian. Here's the Michael Cassidy guy, and this is what Charlie Kirk wrote. He said, Michael Cassidy just beheaded a monument to Satan inside the Iowa State Capitol building. You know what, Michael, when they asked him, hey, why'd you do it? He should have said, I don't know what got a hold of me. I guess the devil made me do it. He could have completely went down that road. It would have been hilarious, a complete parody. But they say Michael Cassidy just beheaded a monument to Satan outside the Iowa State Capitol building, which in itself is a shrine to the God called government. Keep that in mind. The Satanic Temple of Iowa is pressing charges and Cassidy is facing fourth-degree criminal mischief. Turning Point USA is proud to pledge $10,000 to his legal defense fund. And then he said, "We stand with Satan Slayer, vote Cassidy." And you just see all these people coming along and saying, yes, that's right. Charges were not pressed on this guy right here. We need men like him in Congress, less cowards. And they're talking about how this is a Satan Slayer. Love it. We stand with Michael Cassidy completely. What would Jesus do? Oh, Jesus would clear the temples and he would break the tables and the money changers. It's all such hypocrisy because even the Christians who say they believe the Bible don't really even believe the Bible because they go on with the Christmas nonsense. And when I say Christmas nonsense, I'm just talking about strictly from the Christian point of view. So what does this have to do with my channel? This has to do with, are you against freedom or are you for freedom? Are you for the First Amendment or are you against it? Are you just for freedom of speech because you like what you say and you like what some of your friends say, but if somebody else says something that you don't like, you're going to shut them up? That's what we got a problem with cops. They're like, hey, I don't like you yelling across the street, telling that person that I just pulled over, you have the right to remain silent. Don't say anything to them. Stand on your rights. Stand against tyranny. So you're either for free speech or you're against it. I don't even understand what's so hard about this. And then people get their feelings hurt. It's like, Brian, are you for Satanism? I'm not for Satanism. I'm not for any religion, but I'm for your right to practice it. Your unalienable, constitutional right to practice it. What is wrong with that? And you know what it does? It safeguards you from being a frickin' hypocrite. You're for censorship or you're against it. You're for free speech or you're against it. There's no middle ground. Well, I'm for free speech when what I say goes, but as soon as somebody else encroaches on something that I completely disagree with, it's okay to behead it, knock it to the ground and vandalize it. But if you vandalize some of our stuff, we're going to just, we're going to screech into the night. Iowa State Police said on December 14th, 2023, the Iowa State Patrol was dispatched to the Iowa State Capitol. So basically, the priests of the God-called government were dispatched to the Iowa State Capitol, which is an altar of government in that particular state, on vandalism report involving an Iowa Satanic Temple Baphomet display. As a result of the investigation and in consultation with Polk County's attorney's office, 35-year-old Michael Cassidy of Lauderdale, Mississippi, was charged with criminal mischief in the 4th degree. So now he's going to go to court and people like Turning Point USA are going to contribute to his legal fund. The thing, the burr under my saddle is the hypocrisy involved in all this. These people who are, yeah, I'm for free speech. And then this happens. And now they're all of a sudden against free speech and they're for violence and they're for, supporting somebody who's, basically did something that they wouldn't want done to them. They're basically, this is a violation of the golden rule, which is torn out of the pages of the Bible as far as these people are concerned. Do to others what you would want done to you. Conversely, don't do to others what you wouldn't want done to you. If you set up that Christmas tree and they burned that Christmas tree down or tore it down, you would be just squalling. How dare you try to steal Christmas? A conservative site launched a defense fund for Cassidy, which raised $20,000 in just 3 hours before the accused directed to the campaign to be paused, saying, "We've got enough for now." After he allegedly tore down the statue, the devout Christian shared a Bible verse with followers, 1 Peter 5:8, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour." That's interesting that he actually quoted that verse, because there's another verse that says that Satan or the devil appears as an angel of what? As an angel of light. It doesn't even say in the Bible that he appears like this right here, this ugly Baphomet goat head. He appears as an angel of light, of good tidings, of goodwill. That's how the devil appears. So interesting how people are willing to ignore even what they say they believe so they can put their hopes on and cherry pick another part of the same book that they say they also believe, but then when that becomes inconvenient, they'll abandon that and go to something else as well. It's just such wishy-washy Christianity. It's a terrible way to live as a person. I will shout out all the super chats at the end, guys. I just don't want to break this train of thought I got going here. Says the Satanic Temple of Iowa said its display was beyond repair. We ask that for safety, visitors travel together and use the 7 tenets as a reminder for empathy and the knowledge that justice is being pursued the correct way through legal means. The group wrote, "Happy holidays, hail Satan." It's like co-founder of the Satanic Temple, Lucian. But by the way, saying that is kind of interesting because if you live in Isra, HE double hockey sticks, do you know what God's chosen people believe about Jesus? Look it up. Look it up. Look up what they believe about Jesus. Very interesting. And yet all these Christians back here are going, no, those are God's chosen people. You can't touch them. You can't encroach on their land. Jerusalem is theirs. Give it to them. The co-founder of the Satanic temples, they had prayer rallies. They protested us. They denigrated the local government for following the law and opening the public forum to all viewers. And they still felt the need to tear down the statue. I think it was a real act of cowardice. It's cowardice dressed up as heroism. And that's what they're basically saying. They're basically saying, if you look at some of these, especially on Fox, if you look up some of the comments under this article where they actually dealt with this display in the state capitol, you can read, says he did the right thing. And I'll also point out that let me read this top comment right here. 513 thumbs up. As an older person, I've noticed that there are tests that periodically come along during the course of one's life. Do you avert your eyes and keep walking? Do you say to yourself that someone else in the crowd will do something? Or do you step up and step forward? It ain't always easy being popular. Your actions could cost your friends money, your job, time in jail, or a physical attack. Mr. Cassidy stood up and said, "This one is on me." He will never look back with regret because he didn't act in his own way. He's a real hero. You know what this tells me? This tells me that this person, this voice of knowledge person who wrote this, and all the people that thumbs up his comment don't really care about the First Amendment. They don't give a damn. The First Amendment only applies if you agree with them. You start disagreeing with them, well, we got a little problem, and you don't have the First Amendment, but we still do. We hate censorship unless it's a censorship that gets rid of people that we want to silence. Interesting how that works. This person says, and with 238 thumbs up, he did the right thing. And I'll also point out that I'm sure there's a long line of people who will happily pay for his legal defense and any fines that may be levied against him many times over. God bless him for what he did. That man is based. But if somebody did the same thing to the Christmas tree or some nativity scene or something like that, oh, now we got a war going on. I seem to recall many statues of his, and this is true. There's some truth to this one right here. I seem to recall many statues of historical significance to this country being destroyed because someone didn't agree with the actions of the person. Where were the arrests? I agree. But then what do? Do you turn around and become Christian Antifa? Is that what you're saying? You become Christian BLM? You start burning things down when you don't get what you want? Amen. Many statues dedicated to the Civil War dead, statues of founding fathers, Teddy Roosevelt, Francis Scott Key, but no arrests for destroying historic protected landmarks. And I agree. There's major hypocrisy there. My feeling is if people don't like our display in public forums, they don't have to engage with them. They don't have to view them. That could also apply to all the statues and monuments that have been torn down. So they're bringing up this. They're actually making the case against themselves when they say, yeah, all these leftists tore down all these statues. Now it's time to, and so we're going to go ahead and tear down the statues. And if they start pursuing litigation against us, well, we'll just contribute to the legal defense fund. Freaking believe. Good job, Mr. Cassidy. I'll be happy to donate to your defense. Kudos to this guy. Did they not understand that censorship and the cutting off of the First Amendment freedom to express yourself through religion is a double-edged sword? Kudos to, so you're going to say kudos to the guy who does the same thing that you don't like? What happened to the people who took down the George Washington? See, it's just like, it's almost like a straw man. It's like, well, they did it, so it's okay if we do it now. What the frick is going on here? So I don't want to belabor this too much. Let me go ahead and go over the super chats and then we'll head on out of here. But I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover here because Man, I'll tell you what, as distasteful as you see this as being, there's somebody else out there going, well, I see this as just as distasteful, and I'm getting my marching orders from the Old Testament and the New Testament. You know, it's just this never ending barrage of faith-based emotionalism. Let's just put it that way. So let's get to viewer activity right here. Oh, again, thanks, Steve, for sending out those 5 memberships to everybody. That's very nice of you, man. Appreciate that. The Prodigal Heel says this will end in theocracy. That is why the shills are losing it. The Prodigal Heel also says pushing unbelief in the name is the same as pushing belief. I can debate you on this if you would like. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Pushing unbelief is the same as pushing belief. I'm just pointing out that it is belief. You can believe whatever you want. I'm not. See, somebody's an unbeliever in something. If you're a Muslim, then from the Muslim perspective, if Christians are unbelievers, Jews are unbelievers from the Muslim perspective. But the Muslim perspective is based on their own belief. So belief combats belief. That doesn't make any sense. And the same thing with Christians. If you're anything other than Christian, it's like, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. There's only one way to the Father, Jesus said, and that's through Jesus Christ. So Christians are like, hey, you don't go to heaven if you're a Muslim. You don't go to heaven if you're a Jew. You don't go to heaven if you're Hare Krishna or a Buddhist. So everybody who doesn't believe in Jesus from the Christian perspective is an unbeliever. Same thing with Jews. Everybody who doesn't believe in the Torah, whether you're Muslim or whatever, is an unbeliever. So I don't understand the pushing unbelief is the same as pushing belief. I'm not saying unbelief or belief is wrong, but I am saying that it is belief, and it depends on your perspective and your perception and the springboard from which you operate. You know, we all believe in something. What is it? And why do you believe in it? Is it possible that you're wrong in your belief? Absolutely. If you're honest with yourself, absolutely. If you walk up to a Christian and go, is it possible? First of all, you go, what is your religion? What is your faith based on? And faith is a synonym for belief. So if it's based on belief, if it's based on faith, then it's not based on knowing. Now they'll say it's knowing, but if you look at Hebrews 11:1, faith is the evidence of things hoped for, the substance of things not seen. So it's believing without seeing, believing without evidence. So you've got the Christian who is just operating on belief. The Muslim is just operating on the belief. The Mormon is just operating on the belief. The Catholic is just operating on belief. And there is no evidence. That's why it's called belief. There's no, it's not a knowing, it's a believing. Knowledge is the enemy of belief. Belief is the enemy of knowledge. Does that mean that it's wrong to believe? I'm not saying that at all. Does that mean that it's wrong to unbelieve or disbelieve? I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying you're free to believe and you're free to not believe. But you know what you're not free to do, unless you want to be a hypocrite about it? You're not free to tell somebody that they can't believe something, or or their voices will be silenced if they say something that you don't like. If you disagree with that, let me know. So yeah, I don't get that. The prodigal said, you just said they didn't believe in Satan. I'm just telling you what they say. There's certain Satanists that say they don't believe in Satan, that they're atheists and they don't believe in supreme gods. They believe that all it is just, we're just human beings and that's it. I'm just telling you what they say. Holy cow. A $20 super chat from David Seaborn, DBA Home Tech. Holy cow, man. Thank you, David. I appreciate that, man. Do you have a right to free speech? If so, where does that right come from? I have no idea where it comes from. I do know that I have it and you have it. If I don't have it, then you don't have it. If you have it, I have to have it. It's just self-evident. And I don't even know what else to say. People are like, no, those are God-given rights. Okay, if they're God-given rights, what God What's the right God? Because there's a lot of gods out there. And where did this God come from? And how can you prove that it came from this God and not from that God? How do you prove that it came from God at all? The prodigal heel says Islam isn't taught, Christianity isn't taught, evolution is taught in school. Okay. Steve Harola with a $50 super chat. Gee willikers. Holy cow. I would love to have you on my podcast. I'm not a big channel. I have subscribers who are 1A who think one man is our savior, Trump, who are somewhat bootlickers. Anyway, I'm not good at explaining things. I'd love to have you on to help explain. Hey, just send me an email, contact@highimpactflix.com. Contact@highimpactflix.com. I will debate you on it, says Prodigal Heel. Debate me on what? What's the debate? What did I miss? What's there to debate on? Some people have faith, some people don't have faith. And you know what? Like I've said on this channel, it's more that I think it goes deeper than you have rights. It's more that people don't have the right to tell you what you can or can't do as long as you're not harming, threatening harm, or steal somebody's stuff. I think that's more like it. It's like the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I think it's more that nobody has the right to tell you you don't have the right to keep and bear arms. That's more where I come from. It's like this, like what is a right? Can you touch it? Can you feel it? Can you smell it? Can you caress it? No, you can't. What is a right? A right is like the ability. I have the ability in my human being to pick up this coffee mug. Now, you don't have the right to make a law that I can't pick up this coffee mug, because if you got that right, then I've got that right. And then how do we cancel each other out? And then it becomes mayhem. It's like I get the freedom to exercise my freedom to pick up this coffee mug and drink coffee out of it, or water, or whatever I want. It's kind of a strange thing to want to argue about, isn't it? Let's put it up for, what you guys think. Do we have rights, or is it more that we don't have the right to infringe on somebody else's freedom? And you know what? Freedom always has kind of a caveat, because what do you mean you're free? You're not really free to live in a world without oxygen. Freedom's kind of like freedom within a framework from a particular perspective. You know what I mean? It's like, I have the freedom to swing my fist, but that freedom ends where your nose begins. But I can still swing it and break your nose, but then I've done something to you, what I clearly wouldn't want done to myself. And that's the fundamental spirit, I think, of a right, is, do I have the freedom to do something to someone where if they did the exact same thing to me, I'd be happy with it? That's kind of how I would explain a right. It's kind of like with these cops. Would those cops really want to be pulled over and harassed and economically terrorized and put in torture cuffs and tased and taken to booking and fingerprinted and thrown into a cage because they didn't pay their registration? No, they wouldn't want that. And everybody, if you think about it like that, realizes just how ridiculous all these rules and regulations and ordinances and codes are, and laws. What the frick is a law? Who gives you those rights? We're a Christian nation. I don't know I don't know if anybody gives the rights. I just know you got them. And we're not really we're not really a Christian nation unless you believe in Christian Freemasonry. Is there such a thing as Christian? Can you be a Christian Satanist? Because from the Christian perspective, Masonry is Satanism. So you got a whole bunch of Christians like Benjamin Franklin. I don't know if you know about the Thomas Jefferson Bible, but he was keen on, tearing out pages from the Bible that he didn't like. It's called the Thomas Jefferson Bible. But, all these people supposedly were Christians, but they were also Freemasons. So can you be a Christian and a Freemason? And if the Freemasons said it was a Christian nation, can you really believe what they said? Did the founding fathers have some major crazy before their time wisdom? Absolutely. And they're quotable. And I quote them because some of them I completely buy into. Now, if you look close at some of the other ones, it's like, man, what the frick are you talking about? How can you be so blind to write the Declaration of Independence, but declare people who have a different color skin than you, like a third or 3/5 of a human being, or not a human being at all? How can you actually own slaves and say this is the land of the free? I don't get it. I don't get it. Consent of the governed? Well, how can you consent if you're a slave? And how can you buy into consent of the governed if you're a slave owner? It's crazy stuff to me. Your position appears to be might has rights. I don't know where I ever said that. It's the objective morality argument. Might has rights. Where in anything that I said do I believe might equals right? I believe the golden rule. To carry out the actions on others what you would want those others to carry out those actions on you. So therefore, you'll be kind to somebody. You won't steal from them. You're not going to ram into their car and not pay for their property after you damaged it, because you wouldn't want that done to you. Christian authority. There's no such thing as Christian authority. Authority is a concept that people believe that other people have the right to rule. It's a fiction. It's just a fiction. It's an absolute fiction. We were given independence through the Christian authority at the time. There's no such thing as Christian authority. Anyhow, okay, guys. So the prodigal healed, just go ahead and email me. I'm not up for debate. I'm up for having a conversation. I don't know what the big deal is. What you would have to do is pick something that I said that is verifiably wrong, and then we go from there. So anyway. Yeah, let freedom reign. I got a couple great videos coming out in the next couple days as I make my way westward. And I'll keep you up to date on the road trip that we got going on. And it's going to be exciting. We'll see what happens. Okay, guys, if you haven't done so already, hit that like button. There's 304 in here with 218 likes. So somebody's falling asleep at the wheel. Caress that like button. Give that like button some love. Let me know what you think about this Christianity versus, Baphomet. Is it okay to be vandalizing stuff if you don't agree with it? Is it hypocrisy if you condemn other people for doing it, but now you do it, now it's okay? Kind of weird stuff. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and global thought police in the comment section below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to this channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. Grab a shirt, become a channel member, but more importantly, fight for your rights. You got to fight for your right to party. Because if you don't know your rights and you don't fight for your rights and you don't exercise your rights, then you will surely lose your rights. I get it. Freedom is dangerous. It's uncomfortable. It's controversial. But the thing that's more dangerous, uncomfortable, and controversial is not having rights. I will see you guys in the next